Welcome back to a new installment of Old League of Legends. This is currently part 3. I can't believe we made it all the way to part 3. It seems like you guys enjoy an old man reminiscing on his golden years. And in this series, I like to look back on Old League of Legends just to give you a glimpse on how it used to be back in the day. Back to simpler times when reading a champion's entire kit didn't feel like you're reading the fucking Oxford Dictionary.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
And in case you missed the first 2 parts of the series, I put both the links down in the description box below, so make sure you check out both those videos before you start this one. Trust me, they're both gas. And before we begin this video, I want to give a big thank you to all my subscribers because we officially hit 10,000 subscribers. I've been making YouTube videos for almost 10 years now, and I never would have thought that I would hit this milestone. So thank you for everyone who's been watching my videos, liking, dropping comments. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. Drop a like on this video so it gets recommended to other people. And don't forget to drop a comment about your favorite things that you miss from Old League of Legends. Maybe it'll be used in a future video. And without further ado, it doesn't matter if this is your first season playing the game or you've been playing since beta. Let's go ahead and reminisce on some old League of Legends. League of Legends is a very old game, and throughout the years, Riot has changed and modified and updated plenty of champions. Back in the day, there used to be a joke how every single old champion used to have Dorito feet. Sometimes they would just change the champions visually to make them more sexier. However, sometimes they changed the entire identity of a champion, making it almost unrecognizable from the previous version.
Huh? What is this? Who are you?
And in this part of the video, I want to talk about some old League of Legends champions before they were reworked. And of course, I can't go over every single old League of Legends champion that used to exist, so make sure you drop a comment down below on which ones you guys want to see in part 4. But for this part, I'm only going to be covering 3 of them. And starting off with the first one of the most unpopular champions before he got his rework, and that would be Galio, the Sentinel of Sorrow. And for old Galio, his entire game fantasy was just being a beefy ass tank mage, and more specifically a counter to other mages that built AP, mainly for the fact that old Galio's passive used to convert 50% of his magic resist into AP. So the more magic resist you built, the more damage you would be able to deal. The closest thing to this would be Vlad's passive that converts his AP to HP. However, it doesn't work vice versa. His old Q, he used to spit on his enemies, dealing a large amount of damage in a small AoE, as well as slowing enemies that got hit. His old W used to give him a shield that would give him massive amount of resistances. He was able to give this shield to his allies as well. Anytime somebody would hit the shield, he would heal for a flat amount of HP. And for Galio's old E, it used to be similar to Hway's movement speed path. He actually creates a path of movement speed for him and his allies, and he would also damage for anyone that got initially hit by the path. And lastly, for Galio's old ultimate, his old ultimate was one of the best parts of his old kit. His old ultimate was called Idol of Durin. He would channel in a short area, taunting everyone that's nearby, giving him a huge amount of damage reduction, and then after those 2.5 seconds, he would absolutely explode on everyone, dealing massive damage. And this ultimate was really sick because it was pretty much like Nico's ultimate, but it was an instant cast on. This ultimate created a lot of opportunities for you to wombo combo with your team, or even flash and ult all 5 members at the same time. He didn't have a gap closer to get close enough, so a lot of times if you got hit with this ability, you probably deserve it. And now, do I prefer the old Galio or the new Galio? And with my honest opinion, I do prefer the new Galio. The old Galio had some great parts of his kit, but overall, he wasn't a great champion. He didn't have a lot of great things going for him. There's a lot of champions that did what he did, just better. Now, for the second champion I'll be talking about in this video, I would like to talk about the old Katarina. And I really do miss the old version of Katarina, and I'm not gonna lie, I am biased just because of how simple she really was. She was basically just the AP version of Master Yi back in the day, even though AP Master Yi existed. Scratch that. Let's compare it to AP Samira, because because she had insane reset potential and it was very easy to actually pull off. And for old Katarina's kit, her reset was on her passive, so every time she got a kill, her abilities will be reduced by 15 seconds. So she didn't have to worry about picking up daggers or playing a mini game while fighting someone. And for old Katarina's Q, it's very similar. However, it would bounce onto 4 enemies and would leave a mark on each enemy. And if you hit the enemy with either an ability or an auto attack, it would consume the mark, dealing bonus damage. And the one ability that I miss the most about old Katarina is her W. She would spin in a small location, dealing damage to everyone around her. However, the one thing that it would do is that it would give you movement speed anytime you hit a champion, so you're able to hit them and run away. And then on top of that, it was only on a 4-second cooldown, so it was really great for wave clear. And on top of that, it did consume the mark off her Q. For her E, it's basically the same shit. And for her ultimate, it is pretty much the same ability, however without all the on-hit, AD, and constant changes they added to her ultimate. So if I had to pick new Katarina or old Katarina, I'm definitely biased in this take, but I prefer the old Katarina, just because for the simple fact that you can literally roll your face on the keyboard and get a pentakill. And now for this next champion, I don't believe this one's going to be a hot take, especially if you played back in the day. This was one of the most popular champions back in old League of Legends and has been changed completely to where he's almost unrecognizable. If you played before season 6, you would remember the old Graves. Do you remember when old Graves used to be a true ADC? Now these days he's a ranged jungle assassin, but before he got reworked, he used to be a short range ADC with an insane amount of burst, tankiness, and mobility. The closest thing I could compare old Graves to is if Lucian, instead of having a switch, would have a fucking shotgun.
You right-handed or left-handed? You were doing both. You're ambidextrous. That's why I like shotguns. I'm more of a shotgun specialist because I need both in my hands. Oh, it's on now! Oh, yeah!
And was way tankier and dealt way more burst damage up close. That would be the closest thing to old Graves. The main reason why he was a really good ADC is because he didn't have that bullshit reloading mechanic, and on top of that, his auto attacks were just normal auto attacks, so you would be able to shoot people through minions. And for Graves' old Q, he would fire 3 shots in a cone in front of him, dealing massive amounts of damage. And if you got hit with all 3 bullets, it would deal bonus damage for every extra bullet you got hit with. So for this ability, you want to get really up close to the enemy and try to hit them with all 3 bullets. And for Graves' old W is essentially the same ability. The only main difference is that his old W used to slow continuously. So if you were still in the smoke screen, you would be slowed. And then on top of that, the vision denial was more extreme. You weren't able to see anyone outside of the circle. And for Graves' E, it was his dash, so pretty much the same dash that he has today. The only difference is that the dash will give you 70% attack speed at max level for 4 seconds. And the best part about his E is that every time that you auto, you get 1 second off your E cooldown. So you're essentially able to dash in, deal a bunch of damage, auto a bunch of times, and then get your E back up to dash even more or dash away. And for his ultimate, it is pretty much the same ultimate he has now. The only difference is that you don't get knocked back when you use it. And also, before I forget, Graves' old passive is similar to the thing that he has on his E that gives him bonus armor. However, it used to give him armor and magic resist. And on top of that, at max rank, I think about level 16, he gets a total of 30 armor and magic resist when he's fully stacked up with grit. And I really do miss this version of Graves, because this version of Graves was fun as hell, because you had the best of both worlds. You could either get up close and burst your enemy down, or act like a traditional ADC and keep your distance by dashing away. And then on top of that, especially with his passive, he was extremely tanky for an ADC. I do understand that new ADCs have been released that fulfill the short range ADC fantasy, such as Nyla and Samira. And I'm not gonna lie, I would throw both those motherfuckers off a cliff if it meant reviving old Graves again. And also, if there's any Riot employees watching this video, bring back his cigar. The fuck you guys doing? And before I forget, shout out Mafia Graves, man, that nigga nice. And with the score of 2-1 favoring the old champions win this part of the video. Thinking about all the systems that have existed in League of Legends history, I feel like the item system has been changed the most out of any system, and I feel like it's not even close. So many of the past items have been changed, removed, added, or altered in many ways throughout the countless seasons. So in this segment, I want to talk about some of the old League of Legends items that used to exist in the past. From the good to the bad.
Boom! It takes 8 shots. 2. You get past that. 4.
It's meta.
There we go. Use that skill shot, and the tower's fallen.
And to the downright broken. Let's go over some items. So let's start it off with the basics. The health pot has been in the game for practically forever, more specifically the second week of alpha. However, there was another item that was introduced in the second week of alpha with the health pot, and that item was the OG mana pot. Just like the health pot, you could buy a mana pot that would restore some of your mana over a short period of time, and this item was really great for champions that use mana very quickly. There were plenty of champions that would buy more mana pots than actual health pots, champions like Rise and Nivea, and you were able to purchase the mana pot throughout the earlier seasons of League of Legends. It was removed near the end of season 5, but some of you newer players might know the mana pot from the rune Kleptomancy that existed from season 7 all the way to the end of season 9. Kleptomancy was a rune that gave you a chance to drop a bunch of consumables, and one of those consumables was the OG mana pot. Since we're still on the topic of consumables, let's talk about an old consumable that used to exist back in old League of Legends. And this item still exists in League of Legends, however not in the same state that it used to be. And the item that I'm talking about is the OG red pot, also known as the Elixir of Fortitude. Now for the OG red pot, it worked a lot differently than the actual red pot that we have now these days. Firstly, unlike now these days, you don't have to wait until level 9 to purchase the red pot. You were able to buy that shit level 1. And there's a very good reason why Riot added that level limit for this red pot. Because in the earlier seasons, around season 2 and 3, there used to be a strategy where you'd buy the red pot at level 1. Now, some of you newer players might be thinking, why the fuck would you buy a consumable at level 1? Usually consumables are meant for your end of game build where you can't buy any more items, so might as well buy some elixirs. Tiny problem. The item was broken as shit. So for the Elixir of Fortitude, it would last 180 seconds after you pop it. It would give you 15 AD, and it will give you an instant heal of 120 HP at level 1. For reference, the heal summoner spell only heals you for about 80 HP at level 1. So basically you had a summoner heal, and on top of that it gave you 15 AD for 3 minutes. There was a lot of champions that abused this red pot strategy, such as Darius, Riven, Kha'Zix, Olaf. Whoever had a really good early game and that was an AD champion could run this red pot strategy. The only downside to this strategy is that the stats were temporary, so if you weren't able to get a kill by using the red pot, you basically wasted your money for nothing. However, especially with how much strength you were able to get in the early game, you could pretty much dictate the entire early game for your laner. So that you could deny them CS, you could beat their ass, you could just hold on to the pot. It was a really strong strategy, so I understand why they removed it from the game. And now, for the last item I will be talking about today, ZZ'Rot Portal. And this item is one of my personal favorite items of all time. This item was introduced in Season 5, and it would give you a bunch of magic resist and armor, but the most important part was the actual summoning of the void portal. You could place this void portal anywhere, and pretty much what would happen is that every few seconds a void spawn will come out of that portal and run to the nearest tower. And if you were an avid gates breacher like me, this was one of the most perfect CG items you could have. With this item, you could put the enemy into some sticky situations because A, you can either use it on a lane that you're currently sieging to apply even more pressure, or B, what you could also do is place it in a different lane so you can push 2 lanes at once. And another strategy you could do is placing a ZZ'Rot Portal as almost a bait, just so that you could trap the enemies and kill them them when they try to kill your ZZ'Rot Portal. It was one of those fun, unique items that created another layer to the game. And unlike Banner of Command, it was never really a broken item that would just help you win the game. It was just a fun, balanced item that gave you another way of playing League. Unfortunately, at the end of Season 9, they removed the ZZ'Rot Portal for good. However, they kept the concept of the ZZ'Rot Portal by now introducing the Void Grubs, and when you kill the Void Grubs, you pretty much get the equivalent of the Void Spawns. It's not the same, but shit, I guess it'll work. Hashtag bring back ZZ'Rot, at least it's in TFT. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a comment saying California Girls, just so I know that you made it all the way here. And a big shout out to my first YouTube member, who is I'm a Blue Buff. And if you guys want to support my channel, consider becoming a YouTube member of my channel. I do release videos a little bit earlier for those who are a member, and then on top of that, you're gonna get a shout out at the end of every single video. I greatly appreciate for anyone who does become a member. Now, before you go, make sure you try to click on one of the videos on the screen now if you want to see even more videos from me.